This is the Roundup on CBC Radio 1. I'm Kevin Sylvester, sitting in for Bill Richardson. And time for The Mystery Project, which is at a new time. Yes, mark your schedules, circle your calendars. Fridays in part 2 of the Roundup. That's the new home for The Mystery Project, 1 hour earlier than it used to be. And today we also begin a 3-part series, Dr. Johnson Investigates. It's by Richard Brayshaw. It takes us back to London, 1776. And our hero is the famous lexicographer, Dr. Samuel Johnson, aided by his friend and biographer, James Boswell. It's kind of a Watson-Holmes matchup. The action begins with Jane Boswell holding forth in a coffee house. And soon you'll hear the voice of Leo McKern, starring as the roly-poly Dr. Johnson. And the topic of discussion is that play, the Scottish play, the one I can't say the name of.
Banquo's murderer discovered by Samuel Johnson, Doctor of Laws, and his companion James Boswell. Had any man in London propounded this fantasy a month ago, I'd have called him mad or drunk. Yet today the talk in the coffee houses is of nothing else. How my distinguished friend Dr. Johnson brought to light one infamous murder and prevented another is the subject of universal admiration. I should flatter myself were I to claim any credit for this achievement. Nevertheless, I believe I was to some degree of assistance to him. And my concern now is to record, while they are fresh in my memory, the singular events that have plagued Mr. Garrick and the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, during the past week. It began one evening at the Somerset Coffee House in the Strand. I remember Dr. Johnson was expatiating about the theatre and upon his friend and former pupil, David Garrick.
Why, sir, artifice and experience. The actor must employ artifice, yet the passions he portrays must spring from human experience.
You mean, Johnson, that the actor must truly feel the emotions he expresses?
By no means, Bossy. He must counterfeit, he must imitate, but that imitation springs from nature. This is the actor's craft.
Art and nature. A modicum of both, and a preponderance of neither.
Just so, sir. There are some players, accomplished ones too, who become so adept at counterfeiting that they cannot distinguish between what is true and what is fictitious. Fact and fantasy become so commingled in their minds that they pass from one to the other unawares. You may converse with them for an hour at a time without discovering their real feelings.
For example, sir, even now, conspiracy, regicide, and armed insurrection are impending on the stage at Drury Lane. But who is to comprehend what hidden passions truly activate the protagonist?
Exactly, Bossy. For all we know, Macbeth may be more exercised in his mind by the payment of his tailor than by the murder of the King of Scotland.
Act 1, beginners, please. Beginners, please. Act 1, beginners.
Come along, gentlemen. On stage, please. You know Mr. Garrick hates unpunctuality.
Hook me up with the facts, Binnie. There's a dear. What's the house like tonight?
Oh, packed to the roof, my dear. And all come to see you.
Oh, of course, Binnie. Oh, can't you see the critics' eulogies? Sarah Siddons' performance called for universal admiration. In the banquet scene, she consumed mouldy bread and cold tea with the utmost conviction. And her 5 lines as the second apparition in Act 4 evoked rapturous applause.
Have patience, dearie. You'll be famous one day.
Oh, I wish Mr. Garrick thought so.
One of these days, Mr. Garrick's going to eat his words. You'll see.
Witches on stage, please. To your places, gentlemen. Everyone ready, please. Quiet, everybody, quiet. Curtain going up.
When shall we 3 meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain?
When the hurly-burly's done, when the that?
I'd be obliged, Mr. Barry, if you'd give me the correct cue this evening.
I'd be obliged, Mr. Warburton, if you'd keep your correct position. You walked upstage with me last
That is untrue.
You call me a liar.
You moved downstage. You did it deliberately. You can't deny it.
I am not answerable to you, sir.
You would prefer to answer to Mr. Garrick.
Oh, Mr. Garrick. We all know who his toadies are.
Do you refer to me, Mr. Barry?
Gentlemen, quiet, please. The audience will hear you.
Garrick is a master of his craft, sir. He has advanced the dignity of his profession.
He's a very sprightly writer, too.
And all this supported by great wealth of his own acquisition. If all this had happened to me, I should have had a couple of fellas with long poles walking before me to knock down everybody that stood in the way. Yet, Garrick speaks to us, Posy.
Oh, he's a very good man. A charitable man.
No, nay more. A liberal man. He's given away more money than any man in England. There may be a little vanity mixed, but he has shown that money is not his first object.
Yet Foote used to say of him that he walked out intending to do a generous action, but turning the corner of a street, he met with the ghost of a hackney, which frightened him.
Why, sir, that's very true, too. I remember drinking tea with him long ago. Peg Woffington made it, and he grumbled at her for making it too strong. He'd then begun to feel money in his purse, and didn't know when he should have enough of it.
He has enough now, sir, there's no question.
Oh, he has much money, but not enough. No man ever had enough.
You're pleased to be cynical, sir.
No, sir, voracious. If money purchased freedom from care, Davy would be a happy man. But he has his worries.
I hear there are troubles in the company.
Oh, there are always troubles in the company. Players are contentious folk. Barry, for instance, there's an overweening rogue.
Oh, they say Spranger Barry's a fine Macbeth.
Well, that we shall judge for ourselves tomorrow night. Come, we must bestir ourselves. It's nearly 9 o'clock. Davy promised to meet us at the Prince's Tavern after he'd seen the curtain rise.
Barry, this is too much. Last night the wrong cue, and tonight you've cut my final speech completely.
A trifling error, Warburton. I always forget the naked frailty speech. I can't think why.
That's a lie, sir. You did it on purpose.
I find it hard to concentrate, sir, when I'm being upstaged. After all, I am the lead.
Oh, you admit it was deliberate?
I admit nothing of the sort. Now, kindly withdraw. You know this is my quick change.
I'll not be dismissed, sir. I demand an apology.
Mr. Warburton, sir. I am inexpressibly grieved by the loss of your immortal speech. Had you as many lines as you have hairs, I would not wish them a fairer death. Now, pray excuse me.
You're pleased to be flippant, sir. I see you're determined to provoke me.
The provocation is yours, sir. You presume on your reputation as a swordsman. You want a pretext, don't you? You seek my challenge so that you have a choice of weapons.
Why should I quarrel with you?
As to that, Mr. Warburton, you know best. Professional jealousy, perhaps?
Oh, no, sir. I know an inferior actor when I see one.
Well said, sir. And isn't the mirror your worst enemy? Then it must be personal jealousy.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, sir, your attitude to my wife.
What of your wife, Mr. Barry?
She does not relish your odious attentions.
Do you accuse me?
I am not accusing, Mr. Warburton. I am after stating a fact. So it's a letter you are, a goat, a fumbler with other men's wives.
Oh, your wife flatters herself. I've no great desire to catch the pop.
Why,
you, I take it, are less fastidious.
Why, you damn scoundrel! Never take your soul. Is that good enough for you?
Thank you, Mr. Barry. That will do admirably. My seconds will call upon you.
Mr. Barry, Mr. Warburton, please. On stage, Act 3, Scene 1. Mr. Barry and Mr. Warburton, please.
Johnson, she said, you smell. No, madam, I replied, you smell. I stink. Oh, Davy. You have a February face. What's amiss?
You may well ask. There's been more trouble with Rafferty. I've had to dismiss him. You'll have a new property master on Monday.
Rafferty, is he the one
He's
who...
the one who drinks, yes. He was blind drunk last night. Set the wrong goblet in the banquet scene. I had a special one made, you see, with a square base so it wouldn't roll.
Yeah.
Rafferty sets one with a round base. In comes Banquo's ghost. Spranger hurls down the cup. It rolls down stage, bounces over the footlights and cuts the eye of a footman standing in the pit. And what was Spranger's next line? Tell me that.
I know it, Davy. Thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with.
Exactly. And the whole house roared.
Confound
Rafferty. Confound Macbeth. There are times when I hate it.
Oh, for shame, Davy. 'Tis a noble play.
It's a damned unlucky one, and there's an end on't. Consider this week. A drunken property master, George Warburton, and his gallantries. Tom and Meg Blount fighting like the Kilkenny cats. And nothing but quarrels, fightings, tantrums and jealousies. Where's it all going to end?
Tom, you must leave the dressing room. I'll not quarrel with you during the play. How can I give a performance when I'm upset?
Devil take it, madam. A man has a right to know where his wife's been all day.
I've told you. I was at the market. Then I walked in the park.
Alone?
Yes, Tom, alone. Then I came straight here to the theatre.
And I must starve while you take your solitary walks abroad. What of your duty to your husband?
What, sir, of your duty to your wife?
How dare you mention that again? Just you listen to me.
No, Tom, you listen to me. I've had enough of your tantrums and jealousies. You can do as you please. Spend your time drinking with your cronies and playing cards with George Warburton, with no thought for me. I must sit in our lodgings awaiting your beck and call. Well, I'll endure it no longer.
But for my wife.
I'm an actress in my own right. I'm not just Mrs. Blount. You know very well Mr. Garrick engaged you only because you're my husband.
That's a lie, madam. A monstrous lie. God's life, I was playing lead when you were wearing pinafores. I need no assistance from you.
You make that very plain. It's not a wife you require, but a slave. Well, I'll not be treated like that.
Once and for all, madam.
Oh, let me go. You're hurting my arm.
Listen to what I say, woman. Are you coming? Oh, forgive me, I didn't mean to intrude.
It's all right, George. Tom and I have finished our little talk. Go on, Tom. You mustn't keep the cards waiting, must you?
As you please, madam. We'll discuss it later.
Yes.
Come on, George.
Now then, listen. End of the intermission, ladies and gentlemen. End of the intermission. Act 4, please. Act 4. End of the intermission.
Playing very small tonight, Mr. Payne.
Damn me, Warburton, I've no option.
Right, gentlemen. This turn wins. And it's... Good God. Oh, damned hard luck, Payne. 9 of hearts. Oh, that's a sovereign for Blount. Oh, thank you. 2 shillings from Payne.
You have the devil's own luck, Blount.
You are lucky in cards and in love, eh, Tom?
Yes.
Oh, what's the matter? Look like you've seen a ghost.
It's nothing, George. Nothing.
Well, you will.
No, I'm all right. Come on, make haste. Payne's on stage in a few minutes' time.
Aye, so he is. Well, here's your chance, Mr. Payne. Last 4 cards in the case. Bottom one's in hock. Call for the next 3?
No, thank you.
Oh, come on, man. Don't forget the house pays 4 to 1.
If I win, and takes 5 to 1 if I lose.
Oh, come, to be a man. Faint heart never won faro.
Warburton, how much am I in?
Let's see. I've got the reckoning here somewhere. Well, I'll make it £18 7 shillings.
What?
Well, it's here. You can see for yourself.
Good God, man, I didn't realise. I can't.
Can't what, Mr. Payne?
I can't go on. That's my limit.
Oh, come, Mr. Payne. Surely you can go a little further.
I'll make you an offer. Double or quits on the last 3.
I daren't.
Oh, come on, man. Here are the cards already played. It's got to be 3 out of the remaining 4.
Yes, but in what order?
Oh, I'll double the odds in your favour.
How?
Call the turn. Go on, call. Then I'll tell you what I'll do.
Ace, 10 and king.
I'll give you double or quits for 2 aces and a 10.
A generous offer, Mr. Payne.
Are you on?
Very well. Turn up the cards.
Ace.
I can't pay.
Those who can't pay don't play, Mr. Payne. And you played.
I don't understand it. That king was played earlier.
Oh, nonsense, Mr. Payne. You can see for yourself. It wasn't on display.
That's what I don't understand.
Do you accuse Warburton of dishonesty? Do you call him a cheat, sir?
I don't know. Oh, God.
Oh, come, Mr. Payne, this won't do. A gentleman pays his gambling debts.
What am I to do? You'll have to accept a note.
A word of warning, Mr. Payne. The last time I had to employ debt collectors, they went about the business rather clumsily, indeed brutally. An actor whose face is his fortune wouldn't want anything to do with them, I assure you.
I'm broke, I tell you.
Mr. Early, Mr. Payne, Mr. Douglas on stage, please. For Act 5, Scene 2. Mr. Early, Mr. Payne, Mr. Douglas, please. Act 5, Scene 2.
Let's discuss it in the morning, Mr. Payne. Don't miss your call.
You must excuse me, gentlemen.
Of course.
Oh, poor little Mr. Payne, a lamb to the slaughter.
Don't push him too hard, George.
Not he'll pay. God, he must. There are precious few chickens left to be plucked in this company.
And what will poor Robin do then, poor thing?
Why, then we go elsewhere. What do you say to Bath or Dublin?
Wherever you like. So long as we split 50-50.
50-50 it is, Tom, as always. Drinks, winnings, winning. We've always played fair with each other.
That is, until you got married.
We can still share drinks and winnings, George.
Aye, so we can.
And you never wonder, Tom, why Duncan and Banquo get murdered so early in the play?
No, George. Why?
Well, I said that they can relieve young Mr. Payne of his hard-won cash at Faro.
The lines must flow. They must roll off the tongue. Shakespeare wrote in verse, not in prose.
Yeah, very true, Davy, but he also wrote sense. And the sense is as important as the sound.
But the player's first purpose is to please the ear.
The players, sir, have got a kind of rant with which they run on without any regard either to accent or emphasis.
Oh, come, Johnson, this is to deny them intelligence.
I simply affirm that actors are creatures of habit. There is a tradition of declaiming lines which they accept slavishly, without thought for the significance of what is spoken.
You're pleased to be sarcastic.
Well, now, I'll give you something to speak, with which you're little acquainted. Then we shall see how just my observation is. That shall be the criterion. Let me hear you repeat the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. Now come, Bossy, you first.
Why, it is perfectly simple. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour.
Yeah, so, now, Davy.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour.
Oh, very fine, very rhythmical. But where's the sense?
Well, the sense is obvious.
Aye, but it needs emphasis. Now, what are the significant words? They are not and false witness. The line must be, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. Rhythm must defer to sense.
That's very true, sir.
Isn't it so, Jamie?
I'll make a bargain with you. Do you not advise me on the dramatic art, and I'll not write a dictionary.
Well said, Davy. Let the cobbler keep to his last. Well, shall we see you tomorrow night?
Aye. We'll meet here at the Prince's Tavern after the performance. There are 2 seats for you in the circle. Bates will attend to you.
We look forward to the play with anticipation.
I hope you won't be disappointed.
Tell me, David, how is your new juvenile faring?
Oh, Bossy.
The little Siddons. Oh, there's another bad bargain.
Oh, they say she's very beautiful.
Well, maybe. But she'll never make an actress.
Good night, David. Oh, he's in a black mood tonight.
A man whose fortune depends on popular acclaim stands ever on the edge of a precipice.
He didn't take kindly to your instructions.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. Actors and clergymen, Bossy, actors and clergymen, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Mrs. Blount, I'll not be spoken to like that. It's always fitted perfect.
It doesn't fit now. You'll have to alter it.
I can't go altering costumes every day. You'll have to do it yourself.
You're the wardrobe mistress. It's your job.
When I made that costume a month ago, it was a perfect fit. You said so yourself. It's you what's put on weight.
Damn your eyes, you stupid old cow!
Oh! Well, really? Whatever next? 20 years in the business and no one ever spoke to me like that before.
Oh, hello, Binnie. All finished for tonight?
Oh, just about, Miss Sarah.
Oh, what's the matter? You look upset.
Well, it's that Mrs. Blount. I don't know what's come over her. She comes raging in here. Binnie, you stupid bitch, she says. What have you done to my costume? It doesn't fit, she says. Well, a proper stat she was. Well, it's nothing to do with me. I ain't touched her costume.
Oh, she's not herself. She's got something on her mind.
Well, I must say, there's no way to carry on. After all, everyone's got their trouble.
Oh, well, don't be too upset, Binnie. I'm sure she didn't mean it. She'll be round first thing tomorrow to apologise. Just you see.
Well, Garrick certainly can't complain about the takings. There isn't an empty seat.
Macbeth is a popular play, sir, and sprang a Barry as his adherents.
Well, we shall soon see if he deserves their loyalty. Here they come to illuminate the footlights.
How far that little candle throws his beams. So
shines a good deed in a naughty world.
When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain?
When the hurly-burly is done, when the battle's lost and won.
Barry's in good voice tonight.
Aye, sir, he has the grand manner. He has an air of command, but his performance lacks sensitivity. Oh, it's scarcely surprising. Davy claims that Macbeth's an impossible part to perform.
In what respect?
Why, sir, he's several characters all rolled into one. He's a successful soldier and so impervious to human suffering. Yet he is also a poet, a man of sentiment and sentiments. He sees visions. He has scruples. He lacks the singleness of purpose exhibited by his wife. The visionary and the man of action are scarcely reconcilable.
Well, sir, I played the role when I was at university. It never presented me with any difficulty.
Why, Buzzy, that says much for your command of the histrionic art. But we must tell Davy that his doubts are unfounded.
Horses go about almost a mile. But he does usually, so all men do. From hence to the palace gate, make it their walk.
A light! A light! 'Tis he! Stand to it. It will be rain tonight. Let it come down! Oh, treachery! Oh! Who did strike out the light? Was not the way? There's but one down. The sun is fled. We have lost this half of our affair. Well, let's away and say how much is done.
Well, Bozzy, what do you think of that?
I thought it was a most unconvincing scene.
Oh, yet Warburton's a good actor.
Whoever saw a murdered man fall like that? He toppled over like a tree.
Oh, have you ever seen a man murdered, sir?
Well, no, sir, but I never saw it done like that on the stage before. And there was a pause, as if someone had missed a line.
You're right, sir. Banquo bids Fleance escape and revenge.
He must have forgotten.
Something's amiss, Bozzy. See, Davy's coming through the curtains.
Ladies and gentlemen, I beg your indulgence. There has been a mishap. Mr. Warburton has suffered an injury. Ladies and gentlemen, quiet, please. Quiet. I beg you.
Come, Bozzy, we must go behind the scenes. Davy needs help.
can't believe it.
Clear the stage, please, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, Mr. Blount. Please clear the stage.
I was talking to him only half an hour ago, and he's dead.
Carry him to the green room. Carefully now. Stand back there, please, ladies and gentlemen. Clear the stage.
You're quite sure he's dead, Forbes?
Yes, sir, no doubt about it.
Where's Rafferty? Has anyone seen Rafferty?
He was on stage a few minutes ago.
Find him. All of you. Search the theatre from cellar to roof.
Yes, sir.
Off with you. Oh, Samuel, Boswell, almighty God, what a calamity. Did you see it happen?
Aye, Davy, we saw it.
Aye, we did. It was the third murderer.
Who plays the part?
Rafferty. Now he's disappeared.
He's here. Rafferty, come quickly. Fetch a light, someone. Over here, under the staircase.
Here he is, sir. I was going to the wardrobe and I seen his feet sticking out. Oh, look. He's covered in blood.
Good God. He's dead, too.
No, he isn't. He twitched. He's unconscious.
Let me see. Hold the light. He's intoxicated, sir. The man's insensible with drink.
You're right, Johnson. Here, hold the light closer. Blood on his face and cloak. And what's this? A dagger. Here, take it, Boswell.
Oh, you must excuse me, Garrick. All this blood. I feel altogether squeamish.
Infirm on purpose. Give me the dagger.
Here, Forbes. Get two fellows. Have Rafferty out of there and put him in a tub of water. I want to hear what he has to say. And send for the watch. Quickly now.
Yes, sir. Nathaniel, John, lend a hand.
Oh, Samuel, Boswell. We need a drink. There's a bottle of brandy in my room. I'll come to you in a few minutes.
And you've just heard part one of Dr. Johnson Investigates, written by Richard Brayshaw. Leo McKern starred as Dr. Johnson. You may remember Leo McKern. He was Rumpole of the Bailey, that old TV series. You also heard Edward de Souza as James Boswell, that is. And you can join us next week for part two, in which Dr. Johnson tries to get to the bottom of our mysterious theatrical crime in question. The play was directed by Brian Miller. The executive producer of the Mystery Project is Bill Howell. And the coordinating producer is Barry Morgan.
This dagger, Davy, what kind of injury could this inflict? The blade is obtunded and the end is rounded.
Let me see. Well, this is just a property dagger. It's not only blunted, the blade retracts into the handle.
Well, how's that?
Well, it appears to go into the victim body. Here, see for yourself.
Ah, how very ingenious. So, if I stab the table... Oh.
Good God. It isn't working. Give it to me. Look, Samuel, the blade's immovable. It's rusted up.
So, if a man struck with sufficient force, it would transfix the victim.
It would indeed.
A dangerous property,
It's
David.
dangerous, all right. We've nearly had accidents before. Rafferty's supposed to inspect all the daggers each night to ensure that they work.
And what if they don't?
Why, he throws them away.
He didn't throw this one away.
So, Rafferty gets drunk, picks up a faulty dagger, and stabs Warburton to death. What a terrible mischance.
What did I tell you? Macbeth's a confoundedly unlucky play.
A disputable hypothesis, sir.
How can you say that? Doesn't this prove it?
Well, you surely don't suggest, sir, that this was anything but an accident.
I suggest nothing, sir, but certain facts mystify me. Where were you, Davy, when this accident occurred?
Been here, doing the accounts.
So you didn't witness the stabbing?
No. Forbes fetched me after the curtain fell.
But the entire audience saw it happen. Boswell, how many times was Warburton stabbed?
Once.
And where was he stabbed?
In the chest.
In the chest, Davy. Once.
What of it, Johnson?
Where was Banquo stabbed, and how often?
I see. In the head. The head.
Aye, my good lord. Safe in the ditch he bides with 20 trenchant gashes on his head.
In fact, I directed Rafferty to strike first between the shoulder blades, and then, when Warburton fell, the murderers closed around him and made to stab his head.
But Rafferty was drunk, so he stabbed him in the chest.
Rafferty was so drunk, sir, that he was unconscious 3 minutes later. How could he have struck a fatal blow?
But we saw him do it.
Saw whom?
Why, Rafferty, to be sure. Oh, come, Johnson, we saw him quite plainly.
No, sir, we did not. We saw a figure hooded and cloaked like the other two.
But the dagger, the blood in his cloak and face, it must have been Rafferty.
Oh, indeed. And it must have been the groom, sir, who killed Duncan in the play. Hey, Davy.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt. I shall go and talk to Forbes and Mrs. Siddons. I have some questions to ask.
Yes, do so. Meanwhile, Bossy, you and I'll take a stroll on the stage and behind the scenes. Maybe our scrutiny will offer a hint to the mystery.
That observation with extensive view survey the stage. The chance to yield a clue.
Bossy, you impudent scoundrel! Will you improve my own writings for me? You're nothing better than an iconoclast, sir. But how did you come to be in the wings, Mrs. Binnie?
Oh, well, sir, I was here in the wardrobe room minding my own business. Then there was this scream. Oh, it was horrible, Dr. Johnson, horrible.
Yeah.
Turned my bones to a jelly. I ran out down the corridor, and there he was, in the middle of the stage, weltering in his gore. Oh, if you'll pardon the expression.
Who else was in the wings?
Well, just Mrs. Siddons. Oh, and Mr. Blount. He'd been with me in the wardrobe room. I was mending his costume. Ripped his cloak on a nail, he did. Just as he made his exit through the upstage arch. Shocking tear. Right through to his small clothes.
Oh, dear me.
He comes straight round to me at the end of Act 1. I'll have something to say to Mr. Forbes about that archway.
You didn't perceive anyone else loitering in the wings?
No, sir. Oh, of course, there was Mr. Barry and Mrs. Dancer and the rest of them over the other side.
Yeah.
Only I couldn't see them clearly, what with my eyes, and being upset by that scream.
It's been a great shock. Great shock to everyone, Mrs. Binnie.
Terrible business, Mr. Boswell. But there you are, Macbeth again. Nothing but bad luck. And the work for wardrobe and properties you wouldn't believe. All them helmets, whiskers and red pigtails. Oh.
You have an onerous responsibility, madam. The theatre is indebted to you.
And so are we. And now we shall bid you good night. Mr. Boswell and I will retrace our labyrinthine way to the stage.
Oh, you can get out this way, sir.
Oh?
Well, if you don't mind stepping round the ampers. Through that door, straight through the property room, and there you are.
Thank you, Mrs. Binnie.
Your servant, madam. You have been most accommodating.
Oh, it's a pleasure, sir.
But, Forbes, why weren't you here in the prompt corner as usual?
I was underneath the stage, sir. The cordon trap's been sticking again. I'd just gone down to inspect it.
So you were holding the book, Mrs. Siddons?
Yes, Mr. Garrick.
Did you see what happened on stage?
No, sir. I noticed that George Warburton missed his line. When I brought the curtain down, he didn't get up. He just lay there. There was blood. Real blood. I screamed.
Who else was in the wings?
Mr. and Mrs. Barry and the others in the banquet scene. They were on the far side.
Yes, of course. But your side, prompt side.
There was no one else, sir.
You're sure of that?
Quite sure. When I screamed, Mr. Forbes hastened up the ladder. Then a minute or so later, I saw Binnie and Mr. Blount.
I see. Well, thank you, Mrs. Siddons.
Thank you.
Now then, Forbes. I want a statement from everyone in the company. Everyone. Where they were when Warburton was killed, who was with them, and so forth.
But it was an accident, sir.
How can you be so positive?
Well, Mr. Garrick, sir, you surely don't suggest it was a deliberate act?
Who's to say, Mr. Forbes, until we've questioned the entire company? Let me have your report by tomorrow afternoon.
As you wish, sir.
Oh, and I want to inspect that cauldron trap. Now, we've trouble enough on our hands. We don't want any more. Fetch your lantern, will you? Oh, there you are, Johnson. Bosy.
David?
Have you ever been beneath the stage?
No, David.
There's a trapdoor giving trouble. Come and have a look at it. This way.
You'll have to take care down the ladder.
Now you, Johnson. There you see, Dr. Johnson, the actor stands on this platform here and is drawn upwards by means of the pulley drum operated by a stagehand.
A long hall?
Oh, yes, Mr. Boswell. It's a good 15 feet.
But how does the actor pass through the stage floor?
The trapdoor is immediately above us.
Ah, yes.
It's hinged, you see, and kept in place by a bolt. When I pull a rope in the prompt corner, the bolt is withdrawn and the trap falls open by its own weight.
A weight that must be considerable. Doesn't the noise interrupt the performance?
We disguise it with a roll of thunder.
A simple mechanism, I perceive. Well, what then is the dilemma?
The trap doesn't always open when I draw the bolt. If you'll hold the ladder, Mr. Garrick, I'll take a closer look.
Up you go, Forbes. Use the lantern.
If the trapdoor fails to open when the bolt is withdrawn, there can be but one reason. There's been some expansion.
Do you say that the wood has swollen?
I mean, sir, that if the door is not infibulated by the bolt, then it must be compaginated by some tumefaction of the timbers.
Yes, I see.
I see what's happened, Mr. Garrick. The trap has come away from the lintel. One of the hinges is loose. Indeed, the wood's quite rotten.
You must set the carpenter to it tomorrow morning.
I'll instruct him to patch it up, sir.
Patch it?
Well, we need to put in a whole new beam.
Well, why can't you do that tomorrow?
We'll have to strike the scenery, sir. We can't do that before Sunday. We shall make it safe until then.
Now, do you promise that?
Oh, yes, sir.
Let's see, who uses this trap?
Oh, only second and third apparitions in Act 4. Mrs. Siddons and Mrs. Metcalf.
And what about the armed head? Hobson, isn't it?
Oh, he uses the OP trap, sir. That's quite safe.
Well, you must tell Mrs. Siddons and Mrs. Metcalf. You'd better warn the whole company.
Yes, very good, sir.
Confound old trapdoors. They're always giving trouble.
Wasn't there an accident some years ago?
There was indeed. Charlie Beaumont in 64.
Charles Beaumont.
Trap gave way and he broke his neck. And there have been others.
A gruesome thought, sir. I'm becoming a prey to morbid imaginings. Come, Bozzy. We'll leave Davy and Mr. Forbes to their deliberations.
Don't forget, Davy, we dine at the Thrales tomorrow night. We shall take a carriage to Streatham. May we call for you here at 7 o'clock?
I'll oblige you.
Good night, you both.
Good night, Davy.
Good night.
And his brush is working like... Oh, certainly.
Here you are, Johnson.
Bozzy. Another pot, if you please.
Thank you, my friend. I've just come from the theatre. The whole company's in a turmoil. Mrs. Binion had hysterics twice last night and thrice this morning. Blount's inconsolable at the loss of his boon companion, and Rafferty's lodged in the roundhouse. He's to go before the magistrate on Monday to answer a charge of culpable homicide.
Has he made any admission of guilt?
Yeah, well, he admits to taking a drink in the property room. After that, he remembers nothing.
Culpable homicide, so it's believed to have been a mishap.
So say the watch, but there are all kinds of rumours running round the company. I believe your suspicions are justified.
Oh, I suspect nothing, sir, but I question everything.
You have reason, sir. Forbes told me in the strictest confidence he believes it was deliberate murder.
Murder? By whom?
You'll be astounded, sir. It was Barry.
Spragg Barry? I'll not believe it.
He quarrelled with Warburton in his dressing room on Wednesday. Barry accused Warburton of molesting his wife and struck him. They were to fight a duel tomorrow morning in Hyde Park. Forbes was to be Warburton's second.
Barry and Warburton to fight a duel.
Warburton was a formidable swordsman. He's already killed 2 men. Everybody knew that.
So, Barry took steps to ensure that Warburton would miss the assignation in Hyde Park tomorrow morning.
Exactly. Your mystery's solved. Thank you.
And how will you prove it?
Why, sir, it's not for me to prove it. I, of course, shall do my duty as a citizen. I'm to take coffee with Sarah Siddons in the green room at 11 o'clock. Then I shall... Yes. Then I shall go to Bow Street and lodge information with the watch. They must take what action they please.
Barry's a blustering fellow, to be sure. But that he would commit a cold-blooded murder. That strains my credulity.
He's an Irishman, sir.
So?
Well, an Irishman, contentious folk.
But Barry, with other compatriots of his, was ever one to promise more than he performed.
He had a motive, sir. You'll not deny that.
That's true. Jealousy is a strong motive for murder. No one but a lunatic ever killed without a motive. But a murderer needs something else, Bozzy.
What's that?
Opportunity.
He had ample opportunity.
Oh, did he? Did he indeed? Study the play, Bozzy. Study the play. Then go and lodge your information at Bow Street.
Everybody says your performance of Portia was exquisite, Mrs. Siddons.
You're a flatterer, sir. I failed miserably.
Oh, I'll not believe it, ma'am. And I wish Macbeth offered equal scope for your talents.
It's an ill-starred production, Mr. Boswell, and the company's an unhappy one. People are quarrelsome and spiteful.
Aren't they so in all theatrical companies?
Oh, there are a few such wherever you go. But here in London, at the pinnacle, people are fighting for their existence. It's like a mountain summit. A few hardy souls have struggled to the top, where they jostle and shove. Each can only keep his place by pushing someone else over the edge. The art of survival comes before the art of the theatre.
Well, that's an uncomfortable thought. It has never occurred to me. You must find it disconcerting, for I perceive you're a very sensitive person.
Oversensitive, Mr. Boswell. But I'm growing a lobster shell of indifference to protect me from all but the most disarming companions.
Of whom I hope you'll regard me as one. If I can be of service to you at any time, I do hope you'll call upon me.
Oh, you're very kind. I confess, I felt lonely since I came to London. Lonely and frightened.
Frightened?
There are undercurrents of feeling in the company. There are mishaps. Every time I step onto the cauldron trap, I fear another accident. And now, last night, it was horrible.
My dear, it's but natural you should feel like this. Count on me for assistance, I beg you. Tonight, Dr. Johnson, Mr. Garrick and I are engaged to dine at Streatham, but tomorrow and subsequently I am free to devote myself entirely to your interests, should you require me.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. I'm greatly obliged to you.
Item, a snuff box. Item, a purse containing 6 guineas. Item, a handkerchief. Have you got that, Mr. Forbes?
The handkerchief? Yes, Mr. Blount.
Item, a pocket knife. Item, 3 papers, 2 bills, and... Oh, here, what's this?
Now, let me see.
It's no good. I can't endure it. George lies dead, and here we are in his dressing room making an inventory of his possessions as if he'd never lived. I can't bear it anymore. You'll have to finish the job yourself.
I understand, Blount, but this note...
Destroy it.
I can't do that. It's part of his estate.
Burn it. It'll only cause trouble.
It's a serious matter.
Serious? You call this serious when George is dead?
I sympathise with your feelings, sir, but I think I ought to show this to Mr. Garrick.
What's it got to do with him?
Payne's a member of the company. I think Mr. Garrick ought to know.
Do you really think so?
Yes, I do, and I should take it to him straight away.
Oh, very well, if you insist, but I think it's a mistake. Much better to burn it and forget all about it.
Hester, I drink your health. May your eyes and your wit never lose their sparkle.
Thank you, James. Very nicely put. Mr. Thrale and I rejoice in your company tonight, all of you. Davy, fresh from his triumphs at the theatre, and Samuel and James, the most engaging companions in London. We believe our greatest good fortune is in our friends.
That is not a question of fortune, madam. Friendship doesn't happen by chance. It must be made. and being made has to be kept in constant repair.
Oh, come now, David.
Say what you will, the play has an ugly reputation. Accidents, injuries, even fatalities have happened over and over again.
Could it not be that mishaps attract our attention only when they occur in Macbeth? That when they happen in other plays, nobody notices
I doubt it, ma'am. I very much doubt it.
To prove your hypothesis, I should want a list of all the mishaps in every play performed in London during the past 5 years. If Macbeth then showed a preponderance out of all proportion to the rest, I'd be inclined to agree with you.
Surely, Davy, if you believe in good or ill luck, you admit to being a fatalist. Would you deny the existence of free will?
Nay, Henry, I've no opinion about that. But actors are superstitious folk. They live on their nerves. For instance, I give a surpassing performance on one night.
Every night, Davy.
No, Henry, this is my point. One night, I excel. The next night, exactly the same performance. I fail completely. Now, why, I ask. Then I think back, and I remember. I whistled in the green room, or I broke a mirror. Somehow, I've offended the fates that rule the theatre.
Oh, this, sir, is sheer pagan superstition. Every effect has its cause. We must attribute these events to some human agency. To believe otherwise is to court disaster.
Well, how can that be?
Why, the moment Davy fears ill luck, he becomes vulnerable.
Samuel.
He walks on stage expecting some catastrophe, almost willing it to happen.
But you'll admit that accidents do occur.
Oh, by all means.
And you'll not deny that Warburton's death was accidental.
As to that, sir, I'll not commit myself to an opinion.
But, Johnson, you said last night...
Sir, we have our suspicions. You, Davy, and I, we have our suspicions, but that does not mean that we know.
Well, we're not the only ones to suspect. The rumour goes round the coffee houses that it was murder. Warburton was very unpopular.
If we're to murder everyone that's unpopular, London would be another Golgotha.
A rumour won't do, Bossy. We need certainty.
Well, I assume we can discount Rafferty for one. He was unconscious with drink.
He only appeared to be unconscious, Bossy. If he'd been sober, you must agree that he had the opportunity.
Aye, Johnson, but not the motive. Not the motive. Don't forget, opportunity and motive. That's what you said.
Admirably reasoned, Bossy. Very well. We agree to exculpate Rafferty.
As for Barry, he had motive enough, but no opportunity. I took your advice, Johnson. I studied the play.
And what did you find?
Why, that Barry was on the stage at the end of the previous scene and again at the start of the succeeding one. He couldn't possibly have crossed the stage in time to disguise himself and enter with the other murderers.
Yeah, so we assume that Rafferty and Sprenger Barry are above suspicion.
You've been very silent, Davy. What do you think? Do you still say it was a mischance?
No, I don't. I believe it was murder. And I believe I know the guilty man's identity.
Indeed.
Heavens. Hey, man, who was it?
Forbes brought me a paper just before I left. He found it in Warburton's pocket. It was a promissory note for £36, signed by Jeremy Payne.
Payne?
Yes, it was Payne. He'd lost money to Warburton at cards. He couldn't pay. He was frightened at what George could do to him.
Well, there's your murderer, Johnson. And Jeremy doesn't come on stage until the banquet scene. Motive and opportunity. Don't you agree, Davy?
Aye, Bozzy. I'm afraid I do agree.
Well, what will you do, Davy?
Do? Well, I must have a talk with Mr. Payne in the morning.
I assure you, Mr. Garrick, I had every intention of paying Warburton.
The road to hell, Mr. Payne, is notoriously paved with good intentions.
But you must believe me. I don't mind admitting to you, sir, that I was frightened of him.
He was a dangerous man to cross.
He threatened to send his bully boys to call on me.
Oh, did he? It looks to me, Mr. Payne, as if Warburton's death came at an opportune moment for you.
I'll not deny, sir. Why, what do you mean?
Do you accuse me?
I make no accusations, Mr. Payne, yet. But you must admit that you stood to gain by his death.
Why, that's a monstrous implication. I'd never do such a thing. You must believe me.
Mr. Payne, I don't know what to believe. But you must understand that you'll be obliged to give a very exact account of your movements on Thursday night.
I'm fully prepared to do that,
I'm
sir.
glad to hear it.
You'll note, sir, that Mr. Blount is still alive.
I should hope so. What of it?
I gave him a note as well.
What? You owed him money, too?
Why, yes. Didn't he tell you?
How much?
The same amount. £36.
Oh, really, Mr. Payne? How did you come to lose such sums?
They both offered me double or quits on different turns of the last 3 cards in the box.
You took the wager?
Well, yes, it was 2-1 in my favour.
Mr. Payne, your innocence appalls me. You have much to learn. Not only about acting, but about cards. I cannot believe that anyone would be so gullible. You fell among thieves, Mr. Payne. What is it?
It's the officer of the watch, sir. He'd like a word with you.
Mr. Garrick, you're not having me arrested.
Oh, Gad's life, no, sir. That may come later, not now. Haven't I got enough to plague me this morning? All right, Forbes. Show him in.
Yes, sir.
And you, Mr. Payne, wait in the green room.
Yes, sir.
I want to know more about your game of Pharaoh.
We have a statement here, Mr. Garrick, made by one Seamus Rafferty, currently lodged in the Roundhouse. Now, you're his employer, I believe.
That is correct.
Well, Rafferty's admitted to stealing certain sums of money, itemised below, from the box office of the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, between the dates 5th and 18th April of this year, 1776. Now, this admission has been written down at his dictation, signed by him and witnessed by the magistrate at number 6 Bow Street.
I understand.
Well, now, sir, were you aware that these thefts had taken place?
I really don't see that it's any affair of yours, officer.
Pardon me, sir, but it is. You see, if you knew about these thefts and didn't report them to the magistrate, then you've compounded a felony.
I am not making any statement to you, officer, without consulting my attorney.
Well, Rafferty says you knew what he'd done, and you made up the loss out your own pocket and told him to keep his mouth shut.
If the loss was made good, mind you, I'm not admitting anything, but if the loss was made good, then where's the felony? I'm not making any charges.
Ah, well, you see, sir, there's something else. Rafferty says that this Mr. Warburton got to know.
Who's there? Who is it? Who is it? Why, Meg. Meg Blount. What are you doing alone in the green room at this time in the morning? What is it, dear? What's the matter?
It's nothing, Sarah.
Oh, please, Meg, please tell me. Are you sick?
No, it's nothing. Leave me alone, please.
Oh, come on, dear. Dry your eyes. Tell me what it is.
I can't.
You must. Tell me. Tell Sarah. Is it Thomas? Or have you had another quarrel? Tell me. Tell Sarah.
I can't. I daren't.
Let me help.
There's nothing you can do.
How do you know?
Nobody can help.
Oh, trust me, Meg. Please trust me.
I can't. It's only put you in danger, too.
Danger? What danger?
Oh, please go away. Please leave me alone.
Well, you needn't worry about me. I can look after myself. Meg, you must tell me.
You won't understand.
How can I if you won't tell me what it is? Come on, dear. You must share the burden.
Don't know where to start.
You have just heard part 2 of Dr. Johnson Investigates, written by Richard Brayshaw, Leo McKern in the title role, Edward Souza as James Boswell. The executive producer of the Mystery Project is Bill Howell. The coordinating producer is Barry Morgan. Next week, at the same time on the Roundup, you can hear the 3rd and final episode of Dr. Johnson Investigates.
Hello again, I'm Colleen Leung. Today on the Mystery Project, Dr. Johnson Investigates. The year is 1776. The action taking place is in David Garrick's theatre company at Drury Lane. The mystery of who killed the actor Warburton has everybody running scared. Dr. Samuel Johnson and his sidekick, James Boswell, were present at the scene of the crime. It happened during a performance of Macbeth. Warburton was playing Banquo when he was stabbed to death. Warburton, as it turns out, was not only an actor, but a card cheat and a blackmailer, so there were many motives for murder. However, the list of suspects is even longer. Leo McKern stars as Dr. Samuel Johnson.
Oh, good morning, Bossy.
Good morning, my friend.
Well, move the volumes off that chair, Bossy. Be seated, be seated.
I've got great news, Johnson. The mystery is solved. It was Rafferty after all.
Oh, indeed, so? I thought we'd absolved him for lack of motive.
Ah, but he had a motive. Listen to this. The officer of the watch has been talking with Davy. Rafferty's confessed to stealing money from the box office earlier this year. Davy wanted the matter kept secret, but Warburton found out and was blackmailing Rafferty, threatened to report him to the justices. Rafferty admits he was getting desperate. He was losing half his weekly pay by extortion.
But has he admitted to the murder?
Why, no, not yet, but it's obvious. He had motive and opportunity. He had only to sham drunkenness. Well, anyone can do that, and after all, he'd had plenty of practice. It's Rafferty without a doubt.
Bossy, let us examine this business critically and objectively. Now, firstly, let us dispose of fatalism. It is an hypocrisy of misery. What has this affair to do with liberty and necessity? Accidents happen in Macbeth, but in other plays, too. Do you suppose that Warburton would be alive now if he'd been appearing in Hamlet?
No, sir, of course not.
No, very well. Now, consider the play. Duncan is murdered. The regicide seeks to conceal his guilt by placing suspicion on drunken servants. He then has Banquo assassinated. And here we come to the mystery of the third murderer.
Well, what's so mysterious about him?
Why, sir, he shouldn't be there at all. See for yourself. Well, there. Here's a copy of the play. There, now, read me the opening lines of Act 3, Scene 3.
Act 3, Scene 1, Scene 2, 3, yes. Enter three murderers. First murderer, but who did bid thee join with us? Third murderer, Macbeth. Second murderer, he needs not our mistrust, since he delivers our offices and what we have to do to the direction just.
Macbeth has already planned the deed with the first two villains. They do not expect a third accomplice, and are surprised when he appears.
Well, you're right, Johnson. I never realized that before.
So, despite careful preparation, a third murderer joins the other two ruffians, and someone extinguishes the torch, enabling Theon's to escape and the witch's prophecy to be fulfilled.
Very suspicious circumstance.
It is indeed. Oh, the critics have wrangled endlessly about the identity of the third murderer. Some say it was Macbeth himself, come to see that the task was faithfully accomplished. Others claim he was one of the witches, sent to ensure failure.
Very well, Johnson. I grant you have a very pretty conundrum here, but what has it to do with the tragedy of Thursday night?
Why, sir, anyone familiar with the play knows that this obscurity could conceal the identity of a real murderer.
But what about those playing the other parts?
Oh, we'll inquire of Davy. I think we shall find that the minor characters are enacted by such stage hands as were available.
If so, the parts may be taken by different men on different nights.
Exactly. So, Bossy, we have a play that is notoriously unlucky. It contains a murderer whose identity is cloaked even to his colleagues, and the chief protagonist diverts suspicion from himself by means of a drugged posset and a blood-stained dagger. These facts would weigh powerfully with anyone who held George Warburton in hatred or fear.
They would indeed.
And we know of at least 3 men who had a motive for murdering him. May not others in the company harbor such a grudge in secret? Delve into the innermost heart of every man, Bossy. I ask you, how many would you find uncontaminated by the innate proclivity of Cain.
Well, that is a very disturbing thought, sir. It means, moreover, that we must revert to suspecting the entire company.
It does indeed, buddy. Let us visit Davy and subject Forbes' report to further scrutiny. Then, logic, to thy work. Take thou what course thou wilt.
Common enough practice, Johnson. Fewer walking gentlemen I have to pay, the better I'm pleased. The stage assistants carry spears, take small parts, and join in crowd scenes.
Do they interchange parts?
How do you mean, Bossie?
Could the third murderer be played one night by John Doe and the next night by Richard Rowe?
Oh, yes, indeed.
I see. Now for the evidence. Now, what, briefly, is the disposition of the premises behind the scenes, Davy?
Well, sir... Above the stage is the fly loft. At stage level on the OP side...
the OP, that's opposite prompt?
Correct. The audience is left side. On the OP side there are the wings, and behind them the green room and the scenery store. On the other side...
the prompt side?
Where else? The dressing rooms and this room are on the first floor. At stage level, the wings, property room, and
the wardrobe room.
And the wardrobe room. Okay. These are entered from the corridor running from the prompt corner to the stage door.
But there's also a way from the wardrobe to the stage via the property room. Mrs. Binnie directed.
So she did, Bossie.
Now, according to Forbes' report, Haggard, Crane, and Edwards confirm each other's presence in the fly loft. In the first floor dressing rooms, Jeremy Payne.
Does anyone corroborate that?
No, Bossie. At stage level, Binnie and Blount were in the wardrobe room. Backstage, we have Rafferty, unconscious under the staircase. Opposite prompt, Barry, Mrs. Dancer, the stagehands, and the players for the banquet scene. Now, these are all vouched for. On the prompt side, visible to the others, it was Mrs. Siddons. On stage were Warburton, John, Nathaniel, and the murderer. In the green room, their testimonies agree with the rest of the company. And Forbes was underneath the stage.
And you, Davy, here in your room?
Yes. You have only my word for that.
So, you're a possible suspect.
Oh, possible, Bossie, but improbable.
Oh, thank you, Johnson, for your improbability.
So, apart from Davy, the only ones whose testimony is unsupported by others are Rafferty, Paine, and Forbes. Well, I tell you, it must have been Rafferty.
Do you agree, Davy?
No. I still think it was Paine.
You have reasons? Proof?
Reasons, but no proof.
Which could apply equally to Rafferty.
Agreed. What is your judgment?
My judgment, sir, is not yet formulated. I have, I confess, a strong suspicion amounting almost to certainty. But I have yet to make comprobation.
Oh, for heaven's
well, say, come on, man. Tell us which of these three incur your suspicion.
No, sir.
Why not?
Your question, sir, does not admit of an answer. I suspect none.
Oh, for heaven's sake, you just
and for good reason. Consider this. No man with the ingenuity to plan this assassination would omit to fabricate an appearance of innocence. He would be at pains to establish the fact that he was elsewhere when the enormity was perpetrated.
But surely the converse does not prove his innocence.
No, by no means, but we may presuppose a strong probability in this case. Now, thus far will I be categorical with you. Our quarry is one whose movements are apparently accounted for. But he has made one mistake. Murder will out. Now, my suspect committed one error, made one statement unsubstantiated by the facts. Re-examine Forbes' report. Then let us consider how we may exclude a confession from the wretch, for we shall never prove his culpability save from his own lips.
Come in.
Forgive my intrusion, Mr. Garrick, but Mrs. Blount has disappeared. She's nowhere to be found. She's due on stage in 30 minutes.
Oh, the devil. Have you searched the theatre?
Oh, yes, I've looked everywhere. Mr. Blount's distracted.
Well, send him to me, please. And you'd better ask Mrs. Metcalfe to take the part.
Yes, sir.
Oh, another confounded misfortune. Will the line stretch out to the crack of doom?
Poor Davy. When sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions.
Indeed, indeed.
Say that again.
What? What do you mean?
Go on, repeat what you just said.
When sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions.
And where does the emphasis fall, sir?
What? I see. Well, I suppose on single. They come not single spies.
Exactly. These misfortunes are not single or disjunct. They are interconnected. Why has Meg Blount disappeared?
Really, Johnson, how should I know? She may have fallen out with her husband.
Davy?
I don't know. She may have been unhappy. She had a furious quarrel with the wardrobe mistress.
Why?
Well, on some trivial matter. She said her costume wouldn't fit.
Exactly. Her costume wouldn't fit.
What of it, sir?
Why wouldn't it fit?
Well, how can I tell?
The woman is pregnant, sir.
Pregnant? That's impossible.
Why?
Because her husband is impotent.
Is no other man capable of making her pregnant?
Merciful heavens, Johnson, you don't...
And if she is pregnant by another man, how can she face her husband? She's probably gone in search of an abortionist.
Mr. Garrick, sir, you must help me. I'm desperate. My wife has disappeared.
Yourself, Mr. Blount. We shall do all we can to find your wife.
But she's left without a trace. No note, no message. She's never done this before.
Have you informed the watch?
Well,
Excuse me interrupting, sir.
Now, Binnie, if you please. I'll attend to you later.
It's urgent, sir. Very urgent. I've a note for Mr. Boswell from Mrs. Siddons.
Thank you, Mrs. Binnie.
Well, she said to give it to him straight away.
Well...
Why? It's urgent, all right. She says...
We'll hear it later, Bossie. Let us first give our minds to Mr. Blount's predicament.
But this may assist us.
No, not now, sir, not here.
Really, Johnson, I don't...
Sir, I command you to be silent.
Dr. Johnson, sir, I defer willingly to your judgment in most matters, but in this instance you must allow me to know best.
Very well. You know best. Read us your message.
Dear Mr. Boswell, I must see you immediately after the performance. I know the answer that has eluded us, and I'm very apprehensive. Please come to the green room when the curtain falls. Signed, Sarah Siddons.
When did she give you this, Binnie?
20 minutes ago, sir. Been looking for Mr. Boswell all over. Oh, Mr. Forbes told me he was with you.
Mr. Blount, I believe your wife is friendly with Mrs. Siddons.
She is, sir.
Well, perhaps this will throw some light on her disappearance. Let's hope so.
I agree. And with your permission, Mr. Garrick, I'll go and inform the watch.
Do so by all means.
I hope I did right, Mr. Garrick.
Yes, Binnie, you did the right thing. Now, you may go now.
No, madam. Wait, just a little.
Yes, sir?
Yes, there's something else.
Yes, sir?
You said Mr. Blount was in the wardrobe room on Thursday night?
Oh, that's right, sir.
For how long?
Well, half an hour, sir.
Was he with you all the time?
Oh, yes, sir.
While you mended his costume?
That's right.
Why didn't he leave his cloak with you?
Oh, it wasn't just his cloak, sir. The skirt of his coat and his breeches, too.
His breeches were torn?
Oh, yes, sir. Horrible tear. It's a wonder he didn't do himself a nasty injury.
Madam, did he divest himself of his nether garments and stand before you in a state of nudity?
If you mean, did he take off his breeches in front of me? Well, certainly not, sir. I'll not have goings-on of that sort. This ain't Covent Garden, you know. We're a respectable theatre.
Yes.
He went behind the screen like they all do.
Yes, and how long, madam, was he concealed by the screen?
Well, all the time. He goes behind the screen, throws his breeches over the top, then he sits down and studies his lines for the next
Can
day.
you assure me that he studied lines for half an hour behind the screen? Can you be certain that he didn't steal through the other door to the property room and the stage? Can you be categorical about this, madam?
Why, well, no, sir, I can't say.
No, and can we be certain that Blount is now in search of his wife? Or does he seek to prevent Mrs. Siddons giving us the information promised in her note?
Sake, God, why did I read the note?
The trap! Oh, Bossie, the trap! Mrs. Siddons mustn't use that trap!
Good God,
now
no.
up with you and Davy.
Yes.
Go below stage as fast as you
yes,
can.
wait.
Hurry, there's not a moment to lose.
This way, Bossie. Mind your head. Mrs. Siddons! Mrs. Siddons! Mrs. Siddons, are you there? Mr. Garrick and Mr. Boswell! Oh, thank heaven you're safe.
Stand off the platform at once!
Now, Mr. Boswell, what you...
Madam, get off that platform! Immediately!
Sarah! Quick!
The lantern, Bossy! Give me the lantern! There's somebody there!
Hawthorne, Davy! He's climbing the ladder!
What's happening?
I'll explain later. Are you all right, Sarah?
Yes, I'm all right, Mr. Boswell. The trapdoor. Miss Souza. They might have been killed.
You're safe now. Never mind about your entrance. Come, we must join the others. Hold my hand. This way.
Mortal custom. Yet my heart throbs to know one thing.
Did you see him, Forbes? Who's that? Why, Blount, of course. Yes, he ran past me and down the corridor. Ring down the curtain.
What? The curtain! Have it down at once.
Oh, very well, sir.
And then send for the watch. Tell them to come to the stage door. Quickly, man.
Yes, sir.
I will be satisfied. Deny me this, and an eternal curse fall on you. Let me know.
What the devil's going on? No second or third apparition. And now the curtain down in the middle. I'm stopping the performance, Barry. No time to explain. Go before the curtain and apologize. Say what you like, but clear the theatre. Now make haste. We have a madman at large.
Stage door is locked, Mr. Blount, and I have the key.
Dr. Johnson, what are you doing here?
Sir, your crime is discovered.
What the devil are you talking about?
Thomas Blount, I charge you with the murder of George Warburton.
You must be demented, sir. Come, give me the key. I'm in great haste.
There's no escape, sir. The watch has been summoned.
This is madness. Why should I kill my best friend?
Because you discovered his affair with your wife.
That's preposterous, sir. Even if that were true, I was in the wardrobe room when George was stabbed.
No, sir, you were not. But you were at pains to make it appear so. While Mrs. Binion believed you were concealed behind the screen, you stole into the property room, assumed Rafferty's cloak, and committed the murder.
Farrago of nonsense. Everyone knows it was Rafferty.
Rafferty was rendered insensible by the drug you surreptitiously administered to him. You laid your plans with great cunning, sir. But you committed one error.
Indeed, sir. Pray, what was that?
Your pretext for gaining Mrs. Binion's unwitting collusion. I subjected the scenery, and especially the archway, to meticulous scrutiny. I discovered no projection or excrescence which could possibly have damaged your garments, and this fact was confirmed independently by Mr. Forbes. From this, I infer that you deliberately tore your clothing.
Now, please to be ingenious, sir. I haven't time to argue. Perhaps this will persuade you to change your mind. Give me the key.
That weapon, sir, confirms your guilt.
You may have suspicion, sir, but no proof.
You yourself have supplied it. You are holding it at my head.
Aye, sir. And I'll blow your brains out unless you give me the key.
Come, sir. Give me your weapon and submit to justice.
I won't. I can't. Stand back. Stand away or I fire.
Johnson! Are you there?
Don't come any further, Davy. Stay where you are, all of you. He's armed with a pistol.
Look! Thomas Blount! Throw down your weapon before you do any more mischief. The watch are here to arrest you. Blount, can you hear me?
I hear you. I despise you. I despise you all. Traitors, letters, goats and monkeys.
Come, sir, surrender yourself. I beg you.
Never. Better be with the dead, whom we, to gain our peace, have sent to peace than on the torture of the mind, to lie in restless ecstasy.
Oh.
Samuel, are you safe? Are you unhurt?
Oh, yes. Davy, I am unhurt. I'm shaken, God knows, but unhurt.
Oh, thank heavens for that. I feared for your life. He was desperate.
Once a man has resolved to kill himself, he has nothing to fear. Is Mr. Siddons safe?
Aye, we got there just in time. Blount had prized the hinges off the trapdoor. It was held in place by the bolt alone. When that was drawn, the whole thing descended. Her death would have been certain had we delayed. I brought the curtain down, and Barry is making my apologies.
I think, Davy, a modest libation of your brandy would restore my equanimity.
Of course, Johnson. Of course. Go to my room and help yourself. I'll fetch Fozzie and Mrs. Siddons.
There, my dear. It's all over now. You're quite safe.
I knew something was going to happen. That horrible trapdoor. I felt sure there was someone else down there, but it was dark. I couldn't see. I was so frightened.
Come along, my poor child. Dry your eyes. No one's going to harm you now. We'll look after you.
Oh, you don't know how glad I was to see you. How brave you were. And you came just in time.
No.
How did you know? You did know, didn't you? You knew it was Blount.
Yes, Sarah, I knew. By a process of logic, inexorable logic, and careful deduction.
And Dr. Johnson, he knew too, didn't he?
Why, yes. He showed remarkable acumen in following my reasoning.
Why, here we have it. We know that several of the company wished Warburton dead. He was an unsavory character, a bully and an extortioner. Such a man would not scruple to cuckold his best friend. When it appeared that his wife had a guilty secret, I remembered Blount's reputation for insane jealousy. How he came to suspect her unfaithfulness, I know not.
I do, Dr. Johnson. Warburton and Blount were playing cards with Jemmy Payne. George paid Tom a sovereign. It was a keepsake that Tom gave Meg when they were married. It had a small hole in it with a motto. Meg said she lost it, but Tom didn't believe her. She was frightened of him.
She had good reason. He was a dangerous man. When he realized you knew his secret, he sought the opportunity to silence you. And chance gave it to him.
Oh, so you admit, sir, that chance had a hand in this affair?
Chance has a hand in all our affairs, Davy. What signifies is how the human will responds to the vicissitudes of fortune.
Do you recall, sir, how only a few nights ago you postulated that art must imitate nature?
Aye, Bossie, but in this sad business, nature has imitated art with a vengeance.
Dear Mr. Boswell, dear Dr. Johnson, it's very late. I shall say good night.
Oh, yes.
Thank you again for saving my life. I shall be forever beholden to you.
Your most devoted servant, Sarah. May you have success and acclaim in your new engagement.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, my dear. You have shown great courage and fortitude. I wish Drury Lane had dealt more gently with you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrick. You've been very kind. Dr. Johnson, I can never repay the debt I owe you. May I be permitted to kiss you?
Oh, by all means, my dear. The debt is now paid in full, ma'am. Indeed, there is a handsome surplus, which will provide me with an annuity for the rest of my days.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, my dear. Charming, charming. Well, now, Bossie, it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. Davy still has his accounts to do. I shall go home, if not to bed, then to finish ordering my books. Well, we bid you good night, Davy.
Good night, Johnson.
Come, Bossie, come.
Good night, Bossie.
Good night, Davy.
Here we are at number 8. Is all well with you?
I believe so, sir.
I am perplexed by your unwonted taciturnity. Have I incurred your displeasure?
Why, no, sir, no.
Well, what then is the cause of your preoccupation?
I perceive, sir, that you do not appear to be wholly impervious to the attractions of Sarah Siddons.
I'm an old man, sir, and must be grateful. I own I was much affected by her charming salutation.
She might have bestowed a similar favour upon me.
Why, Bossie, can it be that you're jealous?
Well, sir, I fancy I was to some degree instrumental in her deliverance.
Oh, so you were, Bossie, so you were indeed. Had it not been for your timely intervention, Mrs. Siddons might well have perished.
Just so, sir, just so.
Why, sir, future playgoers will refer to Mrs. Siddons as the actress whose life was preserved by James Boswell, heir apparent to the Laird of Affleck, Bachelor of Laws and Man of Letters.
Do you really think so?
I'm certain.
Sarah Siddons and the Laird of Affleck. Sir, one thing puzzles me, a triviality.
Well, what is it?
When Blount emerged from the wardrobe room half-clad, did he not risk conspicuity? Even in these degenerate days, a man deprived of his breeches invites attention.
Why, sir, may not a man wear two pairs of breeches as easily as one?
That was The Mystery Project and a presentation of Dr. Johnson Investigates by Richard Brayshaw. Leo McKern played the title role, and Edward de Souza was James Boswell. The play was produced by Brian Miller at the BBC in London. The executive producer of The Mystery Project is Bill Howell. The coordinating producer is Barry Morgan.